Hello, we have Nathan, who is in Georgia, and you're originally from New Zealand. You used to be an investment banker in a previous life, and now you're location independent and you're a non-fiction author. And you wrote how many books already?
3 and almost 4. About
Oh,
a week away from finishing number 4. So.
Wow, that's exciting. Can you show the 3 books that you wrote?
Sure. So
They're very
the
different
viewers
topics.
will notice that they're on a variety of topics. We've got here the first one I did. This is about equity crowdfunding for startups, which is kind of tied into the background that I used to have in banking. So that was the first one. And then I enjoyed writing that book so much that I decided to write another one on a totally different subject about chess opening names, history of chess. So this is a fun book and beloved by chess fans. And then I got interested, just like the whole world did a few years ago, in cryptocurrency. So I decided to educate myself by writing this book, The Crypto Intro. So this is a beginner's guide to just understanding what it is and how it works and how people can start using it for themselves.
Wow, so there are 3 completely different books. And
Yep.
how did you start writing your first book? How did you get the idea? How did you start?
Well, it was to do with the service that I was providing. So my first way of making money in a location independent way was taking the skills that I already had from investment banking. So in that career, you help corporations, sort of large companies, to raise money from investors. So I took that skill and I said, well, who's not being served at the moment? It's startups. Like, startups are not really being helped very much because, startups don't have a lot of money. So, the big investment banks with their big overheads and expensive downtown locations can't really afford to help them out. But this new thing called crowdfunding had come along, or equity crowdfunding came along, and I was helping companies to write their pitch documents. So this is I don't want to bore people too much because not everyone's interested in in pitch documents and financial stuff. But that was the thing, right? Like I was already helping people with this subject, and so I decided that I wanted to put my knowledge into a package and teach it to others.
I think it's recognizable because there's a lot of people who have a certain experience or expertise, and when they help others or when they get questions, they often give the same advice, they give the same tips, they get the same questions. And you decided to capture the things you were already sharing in a book. So it seems logical, and it's something that can be inspiring to other people, no matter what your background is. If you have a certain expertise, it's an easy way. Well, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's a way to consolidate all your knowledge and make it available for others.
And it's a nice way to teach yourself too, right? So
to summarize, to make a structure. But how did you get started writing a book? You didn't have any experience. How did you learn how to write a book?
Well, there's a lot of information online. So this is something that a lot of people want to do. There's a large percentage of people who have this goal that they would like to write a book someday, and now with self-publishing, anyone can. So how did I get started? I mean, the real thing that I got started with, I suppose, was writing on my blog. So to get exposure for the services that I was providing, I was writing articles. So this would be about one aspect of the crowdfunding thing, and then I'd write another aspect about the crowdfunding thing. So to give myself a sort of document to get started with, I just took all those blog posts and put it into one document and put them into an order that made sense. And then it's just sort of a matter of keeping at it and adding to it and connecting it and cross-referring to it and doing a lot more research as well. So one of the ways that I got content for that book was interviewing others. So that was, that by filling in my expertise with stories and experiences of other people, that helped a lot.
And what surprises me always when I talk to you or when we talk about books is how organized you are and how much work you put into not just the writing and the content, but the research and also in the promotion. Like you say, you write blogs about it, you research your audience, you target your book very well before actually writing it.
Yeah, well, I like to think so.
No, I'm really impressed because, of course, I speak to a lot of people writing a book, and you seem to be so well organized and structured, and it seems to work because all your books were bestsellers, right?
Yep, they've all reached that number. So
Quite some.
I think it starts from doing the research to find a book which people want to read. You know, like what are the gaps in the market? What do people need? And what else is already out there? So I think that this pre-writing research can go a long way to creating books that people are going to find useful. And then if they find it useful and you do a good job of putting it all together, then they should sell.
And how do you do that research? How do you find out what people need?
Well, one of the things I did for the first book was just looking at the Amazon rankings of other books in the same field, but not only looking at the rankings, but looking at just every aspect that you can see on the surface, right? Like how professional do their cover designs look? What titles do they have? What sales copy do they have on the Amazon page? So you don't need to read the whole book to get a sense of like how well put together it is, right? Like have people taken some care in just the surface level stuff? And then are the other books selling? And if they are selling and the level of professionalism is a bit lower than you think you can do, then maybe there's an opportunity.
Oh, that's a good way of looking at it. So successful books that don't look so professional, and if you could service that same audience but make it look better and more professional, then you're in business.
Yeah. Easier said than done, of course. I mean, there's a lot of competition out there, but yeah. I mean, the chess book is a really good example of this. Like all the other books about chess are written by expert chess players, like grandmasters who've studied chess their whole lives and have become really good at the game. And all of these books, all these other books, they all teach people how to play better chess. And I'm an okay player. I sure know what I'm doing, but I'm not an expert at all. But no one had written a book like this one with just some interesting trivia about an aspect of the game that everyone's familiar with, but no one had ever written a book about before. So yeah, it's like this intersection, right? What do you want to write about? And then what do readers want to read about? Now, if you only care about writing a book for yourself, because it's a personal goal or just something that you want to organize in your own mind, then you don't need to think at all about what other people want to read. You know, you can just write and create freely, and there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, if you want to make this your vocation, you have to look at what other people want to read.
And I think even if you want to write about something that you're passionate about, you might as well also look at what people want to read, because the way you present your book will make the difference whether it's being read or not. And like you were saying, you do some research online on Amazon, or in other countries you have local book websites. How important do you think the blurb is, the back cover of a book? That's the piece of information that you find online.
So I'm going to give a bit of a different answer here, because I mean, it's the back cover is not actually seen by people online when they buy the book. So it's invisible to the reader most of the time. The part that they do see is the description on the Amazon page. So that's very important. You know, you can format that with a nice headline and some social proof and some testimonial quotes. I think the back cover is maybe more important for getting the concept clear in your own mind about like what the book is about. And I know you talk about this a lot, and I actually stole this idea from you that I'm now telling the audience. So credit where credit's due. But I feel like the back cover, people are not buying books, and well, unless people are buying your books in bookstores, then they're not actually holding the book in their hand and flipping it over and reading the back cover. So, yeah.
But for me, the idea is that the blurb you read on Amazon, that's the back cover or a part of the back cover. Or do you think the text that people use on Amazon, the description, can be completely different from the back cover?
Well, not completely different, but it can be longer. So on the back cover, like if you look on the back cover of this book, I know that's about 300 words or 400 words. On the Amazon description, you can have more characters than that. So you should use them because you can fill it with keywords, you can fill it with bolded text and more information than you can fit on a back cover. So they can be different, yeah.
That's great. And you said you could add like reviews and testimonials.
Which is another whole job to get those testimonials, but yeah, totally, you can. I think social proof is something that's quite useful for people who haven't written a book before to know about. So, okay, so take this one, this crowdfunding book. So, I don't know if the camera picks it up well, but you can see at the top there's a quote that people can see has been written by someone with a bit of authority. There's this #1 bestseller badge, and there's a foreword by someone who again has some authority. Actually, he's a Dutch guy, Cleverlaan, Ronald Cleverlaan.
Yeah.
So, if you took all that social proof off, if you took off the testimonial, if you took off the foreword, if you took off the bestseller badge, the book would look a bit naked, right? It would not really look complete. So, yeah, look at what like genuine best-selling authors, right? Like the really famous guys and girls who sell lots of copies of books, and look at what their covers look like, and do your best to replicate that as much as you can.
Yeah, that's good advice. Social proof is really important, and especially these days when everybody can publish a book, you have to stand out. You have to show that your book is different, that it's professional, that it's it's well written, and it deserves your time and your money.
Yep. People will see a professional cover as a sign of a professional job overall, right? So yeah, it all has to be awesome.
What I was surprised when I was writing my first book, that my publisher said while I was still writing the book, can you please write your back cover and send it to us, because we have to sell the book to the bookstores in our brochure. And I was like, the first thing was, aren't you supposed to write the back cover as the publisher? And they say, no, we make it look like we write it, but the author usually writes it themselves. And they said, we will design a cover, and then your book will look like it's already there. So I wrote the back cover, and they designed the cover, and then in the brochure that was sent to the bookstores was my book already in 3D. It looked like it was already there, and I was still typing. But based on that, the bookstores placed their orders for the next season. And what I really admire about you, what I do, I write my books, I do a little bit of promotion, I do some social media, and then when the book is there, the book is there. But you seem to prepare really, really well based on your book idea, the back cover, the cover. You start sharing, you start to do giveaways, you start to, I don't know exactly what you do. I would like to learn more about that, but you're very well prepared in starting your promotion just when you have your book idea.
Yeah. Well, let me say a bit more about what I try to do when I have an idea and I want to discover, like, is this an idea which people will like? Okay. And so I think that something that a lot of people don't do is they don't get their book into a format which can be sort of explained in a conversation. So I like to memorize they call it an elevator pitch in the startup world, right? Where you imagine you're in an elevator with someone who can make your dreams come true, promote your startup, promote your book, the dream publisher. And they ask you, okay, so what are you writing about? You should have an answer to that question, and you should think about that answer so that you don't just blurt out any old thing that comes into your mind. So for the next book that I'm going to be working on, which is a long delayed book, and can talk about some of the reasons why it has been long delayed. But this digital nomad book of, looking at the location independent movement, it's been hard for me to nail down exactly what this book is. And there's so many different directions that it could be. And I found it frustrating because I've tried writing it one way and it's not working. I tried writing it another way and it's not working. So it's like you need to actually pause and work out what your book is before you start writing it. And the analogy I always think of is a builder has to have a plan before he starts building the house. Like if he just starts laying bricks and building foundations without knowing what the end house is going to look like, he's going to waste a lot of time and probably end up with a far inferior house. So I think
no,
writers have to be the same.
Analogy, because I notice when I help people writing the back covers, sometimes they take longer writing the actual back cover than writing the book, because when they cannot...
That's crazy.
Because, well, I have to say, if it's a writing retreat, a week, that sometimes they take 3 or 4 days to get their back cover like really finished before they can start writing their book. And I always advise them to take the time, because my experience is if you cannot write the back cover, if you cannot get this elevator pitch, this plan for the house you're building, then it means you're not ready yet. There's something that you have to decide or you have to include or exclude before it's ready for publication, before it's ready for, to actually start working on it. And like you say, if you're a builder and you don't know exactly, if the building is going to face this way or that way, or if it's going to be like a high end or a low end or whatever, there's no use to start building, because the foundation you lay needs to be ready for the shape of the building, the size of the building, whatever. And it's the same for a book. And I think it's worth all the time you take in preparing your back cover or your elevator pitch, because once that is right, you feel that it's right, and then you cannot do anything else but to actually build it, to write it. And if you're still struggling with the plan, but you want to start writing or building, then it's better to focus on the plan and to get that right, because that's the foundation for everything, like you say.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing when you have an elevator pitch is you can start having conversations with people. So another thing that I might share is have a really clear idea about who your target reader is. So I have a whole worksheet that I've just created for myself, like a bit of a amalgamation of some other authors that I admire, and I've taken what they do and put this into my own system. It's got things like how old are they, what kind of profession are they in, what other kinds of books do they enjoy reading, what other media do they enjoy consuming. So, for this next book about digital nomads, I'm very clear that this book is not just for digital nomads. It has to have broader appeal than that. So I'm thinking, okay, it's for someone who reads a book like Sapiens or enjoys watching TED Talks, and maybe they're a professional. They work in advertising or marketing, and they actually have a job in an office and all of that. So with that in mind, you are going to be writing the book in a different way than if it was just for a much smaller niche. And I think that lesson is applicable to everyone.
Yes, of course. And this is something that you should also put in your elevator pitch or your back cover, so you don't target the digital nomads who are already traveling or people who want to be digital nomads. But what I always say is something like this mindset is also useful when you want to have more freedom in your current life or more freedom in your mind or something like that. Just one sentence like that added to your back cover or elevator pitch suddenly opens up the book for a bigger audience.
And having that idea of the target audience also informs who it is that you should be delivering that elevator pitch to. So if you give your elevator pitch to someone who's not your target reader and they seem bored or confused or just not really into it, it doesn't matter, If someone were to pitch me on a vampire romance novel, like I don't read those, so I probably wouldn't be very interested, but they should go ahead and write it anyway because I'm not their reader. So
Yeah, that's very good to only take feedback serious from your audience, because everybody has an opinion. And so what you do when you have a book idea, you prepare like the elevator pitch, you start talking to people.
Yeah.
What other things do you do except your research and the actual writing to make sure that once your book is launched, that it goes to that bestseller status?
So I like to build a group of early readers and keep them involved and show them my process throughout the process. So yeah, so you can have an email list and things like that, but compared to some people, I'm not that great with email marketing. I'm much better with in-person connection. So I've actually done this with you, Esther. I like to connect with other authors. So here's a tip. If you want other authors to endorse your book, buy a copy of their book and show up to meet that other author with a copy of their book, because that's something that never happens. That never happens. I did this with Esther. I've done this with a bunch of people who have written books about this new topic that I'm going to be writing about. And it blows them away. You know, well, I mean, maybe you can talk about what it was like when I showed up with a copy of your book.
At one of the conferences that we were with my digital nomad book, and I think I signed it and we took a picture together, and it's really, really nice. And I think if there are other authors writing about your topic, you can view them as like competitors, you know, and they can behave like competitors. But if it's like this, it's like very transparent and open and friendly, and you know, to be acknowledged, to be respected, and also to talk about the topic, to share ideas. I think it's really nice. And for you, it's if you're a new author, it's, you know, also this social proof that you have actually met all these other authors, that you read their books, that you know all the things in the book, you have your personal experience. Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and it's fun to do, of course.
I think great writing is the result of great curiosity. At least this is true in nonfiction. I don't have a lot of insight into fiction. You know, that sort of creative stuff that's going on in your mind, and it's a bit of a different world to what I'm familiar with. But nonfiction, it's like you want to be asking lots of questions, and asking questions of people who have a different perspective than you maybe, or have something to add. So you're connecting to other authors is a great way to do that. And if you want to find these other authors, you can often find a pathway to these other authors by finding someone that you do know, and then looking in a book that they've written and looking in the acknowledgements. So, so I know you, so I could look in the acknowledgements of your book, and there'd probably be a list of people, and there'd probably be some people that I'd want to contact and reach out to. So if I've got a strong relationship with you, then that might be able to, you know, grow from there, right? Sort of mushroom out, build out your network.
Yeah, it's the 6-step theory, that even if you want to meet the president or whatever, you're only 6 steps away from that person through your connections.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that theory? Yeah, it's great. And also I never thought about that, to look at other books and other authors about the same topic and like find your pathway like that.
Yeah, and the acknowledgements, or if they've done a foreword for someone that you do know, then that can be another way, because you can be pretty sure that if they're in the acknowledgements, then they've got a pretty close relationship with that person, right? So yeah, another tip, right? So beyond the elevator pitch, like how can you take that elevator pitch and take it a bit further? Like how can you take that sort of 20-second snippet and turn it into 20 minutes? So one thing I did recently is I turned my concept for the next book into a talk. So this was an interesting exercise, because to turn a whole book into a talk, you have to cut so much from what you might be thinking about. You have to really focus on one subject. If you have lots of subjects, you have to really pick one so that you've got time to go into it in some detail. And you can look at the audience's reaction. And again, like think, who is the audience? Is the audience the same person as the type of person that you'd like your book to reach? So if you can probably even see for yourself as you're speaking, or certainly if you film it, like I know that you advise people to do, if you film the audience, you can see which parts they're getting interested in, which parts they're getting bored by.
Yeah.
Even better, like after the talk is done, if there's some time for a discussion or questions and answers, you can see which parts that they are kind of challenging and digging into deeper, or, you know, which parts are they a bit skeptical of, which parts were they bored by, which parts were they confused by, which parts did they want to hear more about. So yeah, turning your book into a talk is another sort of pre-writing the first draft thing that you can do to make sure that you're on the right track.
Yeah, you're actually getting feedback, you're getting practice. And that's how I wrote most of my books. I was doing presentations anyway, and I was incorporating these personal stories. And then people started saying, oh, you have to write a book about this. And by the time I wrote the book, I already knew what people wanted to hear and what parts were the juicy parts that they were interested in, because I got these reactions from the talk. So I never thought about that, but it's like you say, it's really important to get that feedback.
You've also appeared on a lot of podcasts as well. So that's another nice thing. You can see what the interviewer is asking you about, because that gives you a chance to see what's interesting to others. So
what is for you the most difficult part of writing a book?
Probably finishing.
Very recognizable, yeah.
No, it's but not in the way of I can quite easily get to like 60% done or 70% done or even 80% done, but that last bit is quite difficult. It's where you say that this is as good as it can be and you're ready to release it to the world. So I don't know, I think it's different for everyone. Like some people are happy to kind of put out their book in sort of half finished form and kind of tidy it up afterwards. This is a personality thing, I think.
Are you a perfectionist?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So then your half finished book must already be pretty good.
Yeah. But I sort of, I think about the reputation that you gain though. So think about more than just that book. You don't want to gain the reputation of someone who releases half-finished products. I mean, Microsoft had that reputation for a long time, right? Like they would release half-finished software which had lots of bugs in it and crashed all the time, and not good. So I think being a perfectionist is not such a bad thing as being an author. You've got to balance finishing with perfectionism, but that's a challenge that I'm struggling with. You asked what the hardest part was, so for me that's the hardest part.
Yeah. And what's the most fun part for you about writing a book?
Well, the fun part is the launch when it's done. So it's kind of strange because the hardest part is finishing, but when you have finished, that's really fun, where you can actually hold it in your hands. You can see the admiration of other people. I mean, this maybe sounds a little bit egotistical, but I do quite enjoy the admiration that comes when you finished it, and people who have wanted to write a book see that and they see, wow, this is something that I've wanted to do and this guy's gone out and done it. I do enjoy that. So guilty pleasure, I suppose. But it's nice to have something that you enjoy and look forward to when writing the books.
And it's deserved, because writing a book is a big project and not a lot of people start, and even less people finish, and even less people get all their books in the bestseller list. And you managed to do that 3 times, and I think a 4th time will be coming up.
Hope so. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I think the thing I like about it the most is it's the learning, It's like I say, it's curiosity. I think that's what I'm motivated by. So if anyone is considering this as, some people will have this as a project they'd like to do as a one-off, but if people are thinking about this as something that they'd like to really turn into their vocation or their calling, I think curiosity is a good character trait to have.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's very nice. If people want to know more about you and your books, where can we send them?
You can send me an email for one thing. If you want to reach out,
Do
happy
you have
to.
a website or an author page?
Yeah. So I'm actually about to release my new website. So maybe by the time people hear this, it'll be up and ready to go. If not, check back in a week and it will be. It's www.nathanrose.me. So that's Nathan and then rose like the flower.
Yeah.
.me. Me.
Okay, great. Yeah, by the time people see this, your website will be ready. And do you have one last tip or something you want to share for people who are thinking, should I do it? Should I not? Where should I start? How should I start? Can I do it?
It's hard. And there's a lot of times where it seems like it's not working, but in the end, it's a very, very satisfying thing to have achieved. So if you want to do this and you want to commit to it, just realize that other people have done it before and that it's possible.
Very nice. That's nice, nice motivation. Thank you so much. And we're looking forward to see your new book.
Thanks, Esther.